Welcome to Her Fantasy Football, where three sisters love to talk about fantasy. Do 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 do. Come check us out at herfantasyfootball.com and on Twitter at herfantasyfb. We're also on ESPNW and Facebook /herfantasyfootball. I'm your host, Courtney Kirby.
And I'm Ashley Williams.
And I'm Brandon Lee.
Woohoo! Week 2 of football, but before we get to the exciting stuff, unfortunately we have to start our show off with not so exciting stuff. The Ray Rice debacle. It's everywhere, and we too are going to speak of it for just a little bit because it's crazy. Brandon, you want to start it off?
Not especially. No.
It's been an interesting few weeks. I feel really bad for Janae. I feel bad that she had to relive that video. I hope something good comes from the video, where maybe there's a bit more awareness that it's not socially acceptable. It's not okay to hit women. It's not okay to cover up hitting women. It's not okay to blame the person being hit. And I think that's what I've been most shocked at, is just been the different commentary between some people saying that, well, she attacked him and she hit him first. I'm like, were you watching the same video I was watching? He spit on her. She swatted at him. They got in the elevator and it seemed like it was kind of done at that point for her. He walks over to her, spits on her again. She pushes him away. He takes a slug. I think he missed her. I'm not entirely sure. So then she's like, what the? Lunges after him to be like, you just tried to hit me. And then he knocks her out, hits her head against a railing in the elevator, and then just stands there. Like, and I can't say with certainty that you know that this is not the first time it's happened, but to me that is not the behavior I would expect to see from somebody who just hit his fiance for the first time, regretted it, couldn't believe he did it. It was I think that was for me the weirdest part of this video, was his demeanor the entire time and just standing out there while the security guards and like kicking her with his foot to try to close her leg. It was just, everything about it was just so disrespectful. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really, I mean, it's bad. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I think the whole thing's shocking. I think that the NFL cover-up's the part that, well, I don't think it's shocking. Let me take that back. Domestic abuse is a huge issue in this country, period. It has nothing to do with how much money someone makes. It's actually quite common. It's sad. And I guess my surprise comes in, I don't know what the difference was seeing the tape versus knowing that that's what happened. Because as far as I was concerned, it was very clear back in July that he punched her in the face and it knocked her out. And he admitted it.
No, but he said he hit her, but he said because he was defending himself that she,
there are conflicting reports about that. But yeah, I mean, I don't care what he was doing. He says he punched her in the face and knocked her out. I don't know what people thought that looked like, but I guess now you know, because that's what I knew it looked like. To me, nothing changed. I'm a little surprised that there was so much outroar about actually seeing it, because to me, that's exactly what I thought happened in that elevator. Even if she was, I don't know, being feisty, or I don't know. It's the language that people use all the time. Abusers use that language all the time. You provoked me, you were doing this or that. And so even if that was more prevalent in the video, to me it's still a violent act that knocked someone out cold, which, by the way, regardless of whether she was a man or woman, is assault.
Yeah.
End of discussion. It's assault. That's a legal definition. So I'm surprised at the outroar now. I am disappointed.
I felt like there was outroar before, though. I think...
Of course, yeah, but I think that with the league now is crazy. That's what I mean. I mean, the league and the team all of a sudden being like, well, now that I've seen the video, everything's changed. What changed?
Well, because now it's a bigger PR nightmare for them, because there's no way to say he was defending himself. Because again, if you have a black belt, if you're in martial arts, you are considered a deadly weapon. You can't get into bar fights. You are held to a different standard at that point because you are trained. You know how to hurt people. You know what you're doing. And I'm not saying NFL players are trained to hurt, but these are big, strong, physical athletes that are bigger than, an average man that take hits all day long, every day, And again, like you said, whether it's a man or a woman, you can't hit people. You can't do it.
Yeah.
And what's really sad to me is that the fact that for whatever reason it seems like it has to be now like on tape. The amount of domestic violence that is caught on tape is like nil.
Yeah.
Nil. I used to volunteer in a shelter in college, and it's crazy. And these people are tearing Janae apart. And I would have been shocked if this wasn't her response, because her response has been very stereotypical victim of an abuser response. They always defend the abuser. They always say, this was the first time. They always say, this is my family. Stay out of my life. This is my life. And again, it's because verbal abuse is always the start of it. People don't just hit you out of nowhere. I mean, it starts with verbal abuse, and they belittle you to the point where you aren't thinking in a rational state to, oh, I should leave. Because at this point, they've already beaten you down mentally, and then the physical violence comes in, and it clouds everything.
Well, and two, it's just like, he didn't just hit her. I mean, he was spitting in her face.
Spitting!
That, to me, is just like, this is normal. Like,
totally, and he just right there on the casino floor, spit in her face on the casino floor.
And to me, I too was done after the first video, because that, to me, just showed what kind of person he is. The fact that he just looked at her unconscious on the floor until the elevator doors opened, dragged her out, dropped her like a sack of potatoes, kicked her thigh, threw her shoes, on her. It's just like, if somebody had hit somebody out of self-defense and they were knocked out, they would have, I would assume that you would bend down, make sure they're still breathing, oh my God, are they okay? Get help, regardless of whether you think you're going to get in trouble or not. That's what people would do if this was a mistake, as he says, You don't just sit there and look at them like they're disgusting. Pull her out of the elevator and tell the security guard, oh, she's wasted, she's passed out drunk,
And then you make a phone call to someone, to a lawyer, saying, I think I'm going to get arrested tonight.
Right.
I mean,
I still come back to, how did she get accused, or what do you say, of battery as well?
It's pretty standard practice, actually. I've had girlfriends that have been hit, and they also were charged, because until they can determine who
was the instigator,
both get arrested until they can determine. Which, it is unfortunate. You both, because it's already traumatic enough that you just got hit and abused, and now you're getting, taken down to jail as well, trying to sort things out.
It's crazy.
Well, he was the only one who was indicted. She did not get indicted. He did.
No. Well, because they saw that video. And again, anyone who sees that video is not like, oh, he's defending his life.
You would think so, but people were on social media everywhere. I just couldn't believe the responses of people being like, give him a break, he was just defending himself from her, blah, blah, blah. Like, whatever. That clearly is not what's illustrated in the video at all.
But these, again, are the classic things abusers say. I'm not saying every person who made that post is an abuser, but these are the things abusers say to justify hitting people. And again, there's no one that's going to sit there and say that you can't defend yourself when your life is in danger. Obviously. I don't care whether it's a male or a female, whatever. You can defend yourself. But we're talking life and death situation here. That is not what this was.
Yeah, we definitely hope that both of them get help. But, the ending of this story is the NFL has an issue. They hid this, so many people are coming out with reports that they had the information, they had the tape, They knew what happened. And yet they gave him a 2-game suspension. 2 games.
But what's so interesting to me, and this is going to sound terrible, and I do not mean it to sound terrible, so I will preface with that now. But they're a business. They're a corporation, right? And so they made a horrible decision on the 2-game suspension. They had crazy backlash. So, of course, this is when they come up with the new domestic violence procedure. And they had, to now what we know, have already seen the tape at this point. Are they that stupid to think that this tape is not going to be leaked and it is not going to be made public, that they had knowledge to it? Like, if they were smart, they would have gotten ahead of it and said, we finally saw this footage. He is now indefinitely suspended. But what they did is they waited it out because they didn't want to suspend this player again. They didn't want to make a bigger PR nightmare than it was, and they hit it up. They hit it instead of getting out ahead of the game and actually doing what's right and creating what was going to be a decent policy. And now it's been clouded with shame because all they did was really just try to cover up a PR nightmare instead of saying, no, it's actually not okay. What they're doing is just saying, we're going to put things in place so that you think we don't think it's okay.
Well, I will say, based off personal experience, that the old rules of ignore it, it's going to go away are not necessarily the right rules. And I think that,
especially in this day and age,
I think now it comes to light. It's there. It's permanent. It's on the internet, or it's a video, or it's a whatever, and anyone is going to have access to it at some point. So there are good and bad things about that, by the way. The good news is that these abusers they're going to see the light of day now. It used to be a very easily kept secret. But if your kid decides that with their smartphone they want to record daddy beating mommy, that's there now. Like, literally, we now have ways to catch people doing things we couldn't catch them doing before. And in a way, that could be a big thing. That was one of the things that, a friend of mine told me that happened at their school, is that a kid turned in their dad. And that's terrifying, but at the same time, well, it was pretty scary. So that's going to happen, and people are going to have to see the light of day. But then also, we also just don't have privacy anymore, and I think people are going to have to act accordingly, and that means that also, people like the NFL officials need to realize we don't have privacy anymore, and they're going to have to act out. So if you got that tape, Roger Goodell, there's a trace of the mailing to you. You probably didn't just put it in regular, USPS. You probably have a tracking number that it got to the NFL, et cetera, et cetera. That's on tape. You can't lie about it. If there's a voicemail that's on tape, you can't lie about that. And that's what the AP is saying. They're saying that there's an NFL number and a woman answered and said it's terrible. You can't lie about it. It's there.
But what they're going to do is they're going to say that this woman never showed them the tape, and there's going to be some woman there that's going to take the fall,
That's crazy. That's just crazy.
Of course,
it's a woman, it's just why wouldn't it?
Yeah, and her voicemail said, yes, we got it, and you're right. It's terrible, or something along those lines. And they're going to sit there and still say they didn't see it, and that whoever the woman that left the voicemail didn't show it to them for whatever reason or whatnot, and they're going to try to, again, put this under the rug. And I hope that they've learned the lesson that there's no more, there's no more hiding things. Like I said, this day and age, you can't hide. And they should have gotten ahead of it and said, yes, we obtained this video, but, yes, it's inappropriate. Yes, he is suspended. And when they suspend him, I hope, I don't know the full details, but there should also be a therapy program that's mandated, whether it was, because not everything's going to go to court, but because now what you're also doing is you're putting that victim in another very dangerous situation, right? You're taking a player, and they've lost their job, and they've lost their livelihood, and a lot of these situations occur from stress and from all terrible, situations. It's now you're putting them also in danger for another attack. So there has to be an actual physical follow-up of, we're going to put you in therapy. You have to commit couples therapy for a year, whether you're in the NFL or not, for the safety of the victim. It's just sad to me because they really had an opportunity to really make a stand with a good policy, or at least a policy, I should say, that was in the right direction. And literally now it's just clouded.
Just last year, no, it was 2 years ago, the chief that killed his girlfriend and then killed himself in the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a random story. That's a normal story.
That's right. Except he usually doesn't kill himself, but yeah. Because she left. I mean, at least people are like, why isn't she leaving? Why isn't she leaving? Why didn't she leave him? I can't believe she married him. Well, you know what? It's abuse, people. You don't know what goes on behind in people's homes. You just don't know. It's not for any of us to judge, but when it's out there and you have a job where you get paid millions of dollars to be a role model of such and play football, as everybody said today, it's a privilege, and you don't get to be part of that if you behave in a certain manner. And yeah, it makes me sad that people are going to be affected by this in a negative way that shouldn't be. I'm not talking about Ray Rice.
And that's why they have shelters, right? So because a lot of these women that do have the courage to get away have to go to some of these shelters for protection, because these men will find them and hunt them down and hurt them even more or threaten to kill them. I mean, these shelters do not give out names. They do not say who is there. They will not say who's been checked in. I mean, they take their family there for protection, and it's for a reason. People don't want to talk about it. It's scary. People will see violence on the street and not step in and not say anything, not report it, because there's still this very weird, belief that, well, that's their business. It's our business as humans to protect other humans. It's our business to foster safety for everybody.
Well, and it's not just the NFL. I do have to say, it's police enforcement. It's the police force. It's everyone. They're just not understanding the problem. I mean, if there can ever be a remotely slightly silver lining to this, is that at least people are talking about domestic violence. When I first moved to Brooklyn, there was a woman screaming bloody murder in the building next to me. I thought she was literally dying. Just screaming. And I lived in a kind of rougher neighborhood. It was, up and coming. If you lived in New York, you know what I'm talking about. And I was like, okay, but it was so terrifying that I called the police and I said, listen, there's a woman, I don't know where she is. She's probably on the at least 5th floor, between the 5th and 8th floor of this building right next to me. Don't come to my building. Do not knock on my door, but go there. Just look, listen, you will hear her. You have to find her. I don't know what's going on. Eventually the screams passed. It was an hour later, and I was like, okay, good. Hopefully, everything's okay. 2 hours after that, I get a knock at my door. It's the police. Hi, did you call about a domestic next door? I didn't answer the door. I was like, I'm not answering this door. I don't want anyone to think that I called the police. And then I called them and I said, what is wrong with you? It's been 3 hours. This woman could be dead. I mean, literally, you guys, it's like it's such an epidemic. It's but those are the women we're not talking about, right? This woman on the 5th, between the 5th and 8th floor, was just left alone, screaming out of her window, help me, help me. I mean, let's...
Did you ever find out what happened?
Well, there was no murder reported next door, but I do know that they never made an arrest. Ugh. I have no idea what happened as far as this woman. I don't know who was in there. I don't know what she was yelling, help me about. I don't know, because it was just screaming. But that's what domestic violence looks like, you guys. It's not always on video. It's not always at a casino. It's not always cut and dry like this. But when it is cut and dry like this and no one does anything, it leaves no hope for the women between the 5th and 8th floor.
None. But what is encouraging and promising to me has been some of the player reaction, because it's very unusual for a player to speak out against another player. And there has been an outpouring of responses from NFL players saying, you guys got this wrong. You need to kick him out of the league. I mean, this is a brethren, and even they're saying, what's going on here?
Yeah.
No. And this is very unlike, any sort of player situation with the players union. And so I think that speaks, hopefully, to that human level of this is bigger than football. This is bigger than, you know, whatever policies they put into place. This is someone's life that we're talking about. You know, and that could be maybe a very minor altercation for them. That could have been the biggest altercation. That could have been the only altercation. We don't know. And the problem is you don't know.
No.
So you have to do what is for the safety of both parties, because you don't know. Because Corey said you don't know what happens behind closed doors. And you never will forever know with certainty.
I would like to say unequivocally, I am done with this gold digger talk.
Offensive.
First of all, blaming the victim in general, but so if someone's a gold digger, then they deserve to get hit. Like, can we just stop? Just stop. It's ridiculously offensive. It's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate because, as you said, I don't want to accuse anyone of being abusive, certainly, but it certainly makes me wonder about you if you're defending this in such an adamant, bizarre fashion.
It's funny you mention that, right?
Because it's so crazy.
I have a date coming up tomorrow, and I was like, I know this is going to come up, and I was like, I kind of want to use this as a barometer, because if he has a response that is not like my response, then I'm not going to date you. But you know what I'm saying? Because it's like, that's scary. It's a barometer of what your beliefs are, and it's indicative of what could happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I used to ask people if they like cheesecake, but I think that your barometer is probably more prevalent, more relevant.
I'll ask if they like cheesecake after the fact. Talk to me about Ray Rice. What are your feelings on fruit toppings on cheesecake?
I will say social media has changed things, though, because it is the outrage of the people that got this changed, because up until a couple days ago, it was just 2 games, and we were all just going to have to deal with it.
I do wonder at some point if Janae will have a feeling, probably not now or whenever, but of kind of support that so many people were, you know, so upset for her. To be like, this is unacceptable. I don't know if she'll ever get to that point, but there's a lot of growing that has to happen for that. But I don't know.
Ugh.
I hope so at some point. I hope there's at least a silver lining of, people want to see your well-being.
It's sad, and you know what? Everybody just needs to look out for everybody else. I mean, we need to fight this together as, you know, a united front, and hopefully everybody in this family gets help, because you hate to see their child, you know, go through the same thing in 25 years. So, well, we were going to do some social media questions, but we ran a little long with our Ray Rice we hate you stuff. So we're going to move into Thursday night game, which is Baltimore Ravens.
Oh, the Titans.
So bad.
Oh, it's so bad. It's so bad. Well, so are the Baltimore Ravens. But they're going to be playing Pittsburgh Steelers. So, Ashley, tell me who you are or are not playing the Steelers.
Yes. Well, I'm definitely playing Le'Veon Bell, who was on my bench last week, and I'm so mad.
Oh, my gosh. My husband was just giggling.
This
is how I reacted.
Oh, Ashley.
Ashley. Yeah.
That's pretty much how it went. I actually was so angry I took a nap because I didn't want to have to watch it. It's terrible. But no, I mean, I had Eddie Lacy, and who was my other starter? Like 2 no-brainers over a Le'Veon Bell situation. But
right.
Lesson learned. I'm playing him this week.
Yeah.
Boom! He went off for some good runs. He looked good. He looked really, really good. He was the 2nd highest scoring running back with 109 yards off 21 attempts, which is exactly what you want to see. You want to see your running back getting 20 touches or so. That's a good barometer of, you know, just how incorporated they are in the offense. So it's exactly what you want to see, especially week 1. And so I'm excited. He's got another big week up against the Steelers.
Oh, it's so much better because Pittsburgh came out so bad last year. We're like, who are these people?
You're right. It was like, what happened to the Steelers?
Yeah.
I mean, they were going up against the Browns, but yeah.
You know, the Browns.
Come on.
Not to bring down the mood, but
Brandon,
come on, out there.
Brand's anti-steel curtain. She's not about it.
Yeah.
She's never been a Steelers girl.
Yeah.
What you need to do is you just need to focus on Tomlin. That's what the focus needs to be. But Brandon's very favorite player, Big Ben. She's like, nah. I had him in my gut calls this week. He looked pretty good. He really did, you know, and he's been basically out of contention as a fantasy starter for the last couple of years, really. He's been kind of in that backup situation, but in a deep league, I'm saying take a look at him. We have him ranked number 11. He went 23 of 34 for 365 yards, you know, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. But he was the 12th highest scoring quarterback. So if you're in, you know, a deep league or even just kind of some of those are just standard leagues, he's someone to consider. And again, the Ravens haven't looked too great. And I will say he scored more points than Drew Brees, Nick Foles, Phillip Rivers, Tom Brady, Tony Romo, not hard to do, Aaron Rodgers.
What about Eli Manning?
Those are some pretty big names. Eli Manning, shocking. But something to consider. I'd say consider it. Marcus Wheaton is my other sleeper. He had a nice little week, and I'm glad to see that he and Ben started to actually kind of connect. I was a little nervous because in preseason he was dropping balls left and right. But he came out week 1 and caught almost all of his passes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he was targeted like 7 times, and he caught 6 of them. So it's pretty solid. He had 97 yards. Throw a touchdown to that mix, and money. So I'm liking myself some Wheaton. And then the bench really is just Heath Miller. You just got other tight ends that are better options out there, so stick with those.
You know, for the Ravens, you know, this preseason I was like, ugh, Pitta. But there's nothing going on with the Ravens, so hey, let's jump on the Pitta bandwagon. It's it, guys. That's all we got to pull for. Him and the kicker. So it's really exciting Baltimore Ravens season. But Pitta had 10 receptions, 83 yards. That's okay. The best part of it is Flacco targeted him 15 times.
He targeted a lot. He dropped some big balls.
Yeah, sure.
That sounded really dirty. He dropped some big balls, but some big plays, I should say. He dropped a lot.
I think most people did actually with the Ravens, but you know it's a good sign that they are using him that much in the offense. I like that. Got calls. Here we go. Running back confusion. You know, Justin Forsett looked good, and he'll be getting the start this week. Thus far we've heard since Ray Rice has been removed from the NFL. You know, and he's only owned in like 1% of leagues or something crazy. So pick him up. You know, especially if you're in a deep league. Like, why not? Why not?
He looked good. He looked shifty. I like Forsett.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He had 5 receptions for 14 yards, rushed for 70 yards, and a touchdown. He looked great. And Bernard Pierce, he had a fumble, and the coaches automatically benched him. Okay, that's fine, great. I think he's going to get better, and I think that they're going to use him a lot more, and we'll see. It's going to be a bit of running back by committee there. And Steve Smith, what?
Yeah, he was great.
What? He was great.
Yeah.
7 receptions, 118 yards, and a touchdown. You know, and again, he's only owned by like 40% of leagues. So,
Now, granted, like 80 of those yards came on one play.
You know what?
But at least it shows that.
Is this a Debbie Downer podcast here, guys? Gosh.
No, I just Steve Smith's a weird guy that I've never like loved. I don't dislike him. Even when he was with the Panthers, I was kind of just like, meh.
Listen,
I think he's a good option. I think he's a good option.
He's got a chip on his shoulder, and he's ready to play. And he, you know, when he's angry on the field, you've all seen it. He's not a man you want to mess with, so I'm into it. Flacco is on the bench, you guys.
But did you see the most just that when he just sat there and just in such sadness on the field?
It was sad.
It was really sad.
It is sad. Good luck. Good luck, my friends. Sunday morning games. Here we go. Miami Dolphins at Buffalo Bills.
Yeah. I don't know why I like to talk about the Dolphins so much this year. Who knew?
It's because you're cocky about your Moreno call
I'm
from
so
June.
cocky. I totally am. If by cocky you mean confident and always right, then yes.
Yes.
I would agree with you. Yeah, so again, there's the whole offensive line issues, but Noshawn doesn't seem to have any problem with it, and Tannehill, has been doing pretty good. He's been opening, it up a bit down the field, so that's also going to help the running backs out. And Noshawn was the third highest scoring running back, and he had the most yards with 134 yards off 24 attempts.
And he wasn't even the starter.
And he wasn't even the starter. I mean, yeah, it is what it is, people.
Crazy.
Jump on the wagon, please. Hop on.
You've been driving the wagon.
I've been driving all over people on that wagon. Right? He's gonna do it against next week. He's going to. He's gonna have another good week. Mike Wallace. This is an interesting one for me because I have a love-hate affair with Mike Wallace.
Ugh.
I know, because he's that potential guy that I hate so much. but he did well this week, right? So he's targeted. He got 7 receptions with 81 yards and a touchdown. He was the 12th highest scoring receiver. This was all while Revis was covering him, right? Which is no small feat. And this week's up against the Bills, who actually looked good, right?
Good.
The Bills looked good.
Good.
I'll get into that.
But what you do need to keep in mind is that the Bills did give up over 340 yards to the Bears, and to 4 different receivers at 70-plus yards. So this bodes well for Mike Wallace to have a second week performance of doing well, and then we can go back to the ho-hum Mike Wallace is going to blow up my fantasy season. But hopefully not this week. Lamar Miller, I have him in my gut calls. I upgraded him from bench to gut calls. Only, I know, I'm feeling nice. Only because, for whatever reason, the Dolphins are still lying to themselves that Lamar Miller is the starting running back. I don't know what to do to get through to them. I just don't understand it. But for whatever reason, he's still in the mix. He's still the starter. He got 11 of the 38 carries, which isn't great. Your starter should have more carries than your backup. Just saying. But they did bring him in on some goal line looks. So that's what has me a little bit concerned. That's why I'm putting him to the gut call, because if you're in a deep league, I could understand putting Miller into a flex situation because they do bring him in for goal lines. I would not start him as your running back, but if you have a flex and you're in a deep league, I can understand it. I don't like it, but I can understand it. Bench is Brian Hartline. He only had 2 receptions for 26 yards. That's 2 points. That's not going to cut it. Granted, the Bills do give up a lot of, points in the air, so there's a chance, but I would expect maybe 4 or 5 points, and that's still not going to be starting receiver numbers. So, bench.
The Bills are awesome this year. I don't know if they're going to be awesome all year, but they were lovely last week, and I have to give them some props. My Bills and my Jaguars, in general, surprised me and delighted me. Play them if you got them, C.J. Spiller and Fred Jackson. Now, don't be fooled just by the stats. Fred Jackson got tackled at the 0.5-yard line. Literally, he should have had a touchdown. He would have had the same stats as C.J. Spiller. So let's take a moment. Also, he's the captain. He was the one in overtime who did the coin toss. He's not going anywhere, people. So, but I will say that also he won the Stiff Arm of the Year award. I don't know if you saw the 38-yard run that almost got the touchdown that made them win in overtime, but it was amazing. His stiff arm was like straight up 1970s style.
I thought you were serious. I was like, they give those out?
They should.
I'm actually going
to make the best trophy ever, like a huge arm coming out at you.
It's my new idea.
Somebody make that trophy, please.
I mean, they both caught 3 passes. Yes, they went to C.J. Spiller almost twice as much in the run game, so that is true. But I think it's going to go off and on the whole season. But they both have enough carries to go around. They want to run first, so keep playing. Also, Dan Carpenter.
Just say, wouldn't you if you had EJ Manuel?
Yeah. Although EJ Manuel was up.
He was better. He was better this week.
He's on my bench this week. But yes, you know. Dan Carpenter did not miss a field goal last week and kicked a 50-plus yarders. So if you have one of the guys that missed a lot of them last week, he might be a good pickup. As far as gut calls are concerned, Robert Woods, don't get all crazy town about stats here. He was by far the most reliable receiver. He was the number 1 targeted receiver with 6. Watkins was targeted 4 times, Williams 2 times, Goodwin once, let's just stop the madness here. He also made some really good catches when he did catch the ball. Part of this is an EJ Manuel problem, which we discussed last week. But still, he's only owned in 1.5% of leagues. If you're in a deep league, you should pick him up. Sammy Watkins, you guys, it's happening. I'm not quite sure what's going on. It may be their defense, or it may be the Patriots are bad, but Miami looked pretty good last week. So
it's a tough call.
That's why everyone's kind of in a gut call situation, frankly. There are no tight ends, so we don't need to talk about them, and EJ Manuel's on the bench, because even though he did get a rushing touchdown, and congratulations, he still is not fantasy start worthy. So.
He's a work in progress.
He's a work in progress, but he did complete 76.2% of his passes, but he took very few passes. So
now, who was the guy? Speaking of stiff arms, because I can't move past the Stiffy Trophy, which needs to happen. That's what I'm going to call it.
I think it's called the Heisman.
I'm going to call it the Stiffy Trophy.
The Heisman has it, right?
No, this is just a gold arm.
Okay, just an arm. Okay, great.
That's all I want. I want a gold arm, calling it the Stiffy Trophy, and it goes out to the best stiff arm.
I like it.
But who was the wide receiver that literally took the guy's jersey and like flipped him over him? Was it Steve Smith?
I don't remember.
That's a Steve Smith move.
It is.
I mean, Antonio Brown.
It was beastly. It was like boom, like totally threw the guy over him and just continued on with his run. I was like, you are an animal, and that's awesome.
You guys saw that, right? Antonio Brown literally kung fu pandaing the like punter. I think he was trying to jump over him, but it was so
he was trying to hurdle him, but it looked like he literally kicked him in the face on purpose.
My boss, who knows nothing about football, was like, "Have you seen this?" and then held up a picture of it. And I was like, "Oh no, this is so bad that this is what people talk about who don't watch football."
Well, because again, it was to the punter, right?
Yeah, it's sad.
And people think kickers don't matter. Those poor punters.
Poor punters.
Poor punters.
We should send him a mug.
We should. That was brutal. Brutal for the guy.
Brutal. By the way, we have our fantasy football mugs. If you're watching us on video, there you go.
Yeah.
If you can guess what I'm having in it, I will send you a mug. And yes, I'm talking brand.
Nice. Jacksonville Jaguars at the Washington Redskins. I'm the one who has to order those. I'm like, why don't you just like tell everybody?
They're cute mugs, though.
They're cute mugs. I will order this one and send them myself. No. Jacksonville Jaguars. Worst to first. Am I right, ladies? Am I right?
Love me some Jags right now.
Awesome.
Okay, so they totally blew it in the second quarter. I want to put this out here. You guys, I got excited. The second half was really bad. I watched the tape because I cover both the Eagles and the Jaguars, and it all came clear in the second half. Let's just put it that way. But let's be positive. Jaguars defense. Okay, the Redskins are terrible.
Bad.
The Jaguars are getting better. They're not great yet. But the Jags defense is possibly a real deal. I would start almost any defense against Washington in case you're streaming defenses. But just to let you know, the Jaguars got 5 sacks, an interception, and 2 fumbles against the Eagles last week. So it was all in the first half, but it's something to think about. As far as gut calls are concerned, Marquise Lee and Alan Hearns, if you go to ESPNW, you can see a video where I talked about how I believe that Marquise Lee is kind of the better choice in this matter because I think the Jaguars are more invested in him. But I like both guys. They both did a great job. Hearns caught 4 catches for out of 8 targets for 110 yards and 2 touchdowns. Lee caught 6 catches on 8 targets for 62 yards. If you would have had a touchdown, they're pretty close to even. The thing is that Hearns did not catch a pass in the second quarter, so I'm not saying he's an Ogletree from 2 years ago, but I am saying it's a thing. Benchwarmers, Chad Henne, although I would like to say, you heard me, he was much better than you thought he was. He was the 14th ranked fantasy quarterback last week. I want you to think about that if you're in a 2-quarterback league. And Toby Gerhart is hurt. He sprained his ankle. He kept coming back into the game, and he just didn't look good. I wouldn't play him until
Who's surprised by this? Didn't we say at the beginning of the season that we were not as high on Toby Gerhart because he has yet to be proven as a running back that can last a whole season?
Absolutely. Although this is like he legitimately sprained his ankle. They taped the bejesus out of it. It was like a huge ankle of tape and sent him back out. So I don't know. I'm not going to say he's a bust, but I am going to tell you I'm not starting him until I see that he's not taped up to the point where he looks like a bowling ball.
Boom.
Oh, and Scobie missed 2 kicks.
Yeah. That's rough.
There are a lot of mistakes and a lot of interceptions. It definitely was week 1 in the NFL.
It was week 1, yeah.
There's nothing more awkward in football than that moment right after the kicker misses the kick, right? It's just like...
Yeah. You've got one job, man.
I feel the awkwardness, and I'm just like, this guy is being hated this very moment, and I always think of Ace Ventura and those little ball cookies and the hilarious mother. Poor kickers.
One was blocked. His 39-yard one was blocked, and the other one was 50-plus yards, so I have to be fair to him.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. But
And the block was crazy town. That eagle was nuts. So, anyway, just putting it out there.
Well, I'm going to have a hard time defending the Redskins.
Yep, no need.
I was just thinking when you were talking about, like, who would you rather want to start a defense against? The Redskins or the Cowboys? It's a tough call.
My third choice, the Giants. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay, fair.
We'll get into that later, right?
Yeah, man, brutal.
Holy bad.
So you may be shocked, but I have absolutely no one that's a must start. That's a player beyond. No one.
I think it's a good call.
Because with RG3 still at the helm, I can't in good faith tell you that you must start anybody. So there's that. But for my gut calls, is Deshaun Jackson, Pierre Garçon, and Alfred Morris. These are the 3 guys that would be in your must starts again, and will probably be bumped back up to that as soon as the Redskins seem to somehow fix some issues. But right now they're my gut calls. Jackson, it was still not the outing that we're hoping for his first outing. He had 8 receptions off 9 targets for only 62 yards and no touchdowns. So my biggest concern here is that he's averaging 2.4 yards per catch, whereas in Philly it was 14.2. So they're not using Jackson in this deep ball threat, which is his strength, right? This is why you drafted him. So why are you not incorporating plays that involve 10-plus yard out plays?
Because they have RG3.
I mean, that is the answer.
That is the answer. That is the answer.
Well, they need to work that. They need to work it out. I almost just they're inherently being like work. But
yeah, I made one trade before the season started. I traded Pierre Garçon for CJ Spiller, and I'm never gonna look back.
I don't even like CJ Spiller, but
no, me neither. But it was still the right move.
And so the same thing goes with Pierre Garçon. So he got targeted a little more than Deshaun Jackson, right? So he had 11 targets. And 10 receptions. The good news is that at least they're catching the balls that are actually getting to them.
Yeah.
They only dropped 1 each, so that's a positive. But Pierre Garçon only had 77 yards, and again, no touchdowns. The good news that they're going up, against the Jags are the 19th, best secondary in the league, I guess. If you want to say 19th is the best. It's very much a middle of the pack secondary, so hopefully maybe they can kind of create some rapport this week. Not going to count on it, but just saying. Alfred Morris. It wasn't a horrible week, but my big issue is that with the RG issues, you would think they would actually be focusing a bit more on the run, right? Because if you're having problems with RG3, then let's get the ball to Alfred Morris and let's get the run game going at least. Well, that's not really been the case, So, he only got the ball 14 times. He did have 6.4 yards per carriage, which is pretty good. 6.5 is good, but they need to get the ball into his hands a lot more. So until they're getting that ball in his hands more, I can't tell you to have him as a must start. My bench, again, should be no surprise. RG3, 8 points, not going to cut it. And then Jordan Reed, he's got a hamstring injury. This is a nightmare for all Jordan Reed owners because the biggest thing you're concerned about is injury. Granted, you were nervous about concussions since he was out majority last season with concussions. But now, week 1, he's already got a hamstring injury, and they've actually said it could be some time until he gets back. That's not what you want to hear. So it's time to start looking for another option.
Sad day. Dallas Cowboys at Tennessee Titans. Woo, those Cowboys. So good. So good. And we were worried about the defense. Wow. Okay. Well, I'll start with the bench because it's the best part. Tony Romo.
Romo.
Man. He had 281 yards, 1 touchdown, and 3 interceptions. Sorry.
So I still feel bad for him. There's something about Tony Romo where he's just like, oh, Romo.
You know what my last line is I'm pulling for you, Romo, to recover. But it's not going to happen this week. against Tennessee. It's just not.
Nope.
It's just not going to happen. You know, and because he played poorly, so did most of the rest of the team. DeMarco Murray, he had 3 receptions for 25 yards. You know, that's nice for your PPR. 18 yards rushing and a touchdown. Okay. Yay, Murray. Yeah, clearly they're going to need to use the running game. So that's wonderful. Which makes me put Lance Dunbar in gut calls. We have him ranked 34th. You know, he caught 3 passes out of 3 targets for 21 yards. That's not bad. And he's available in 90% of leagues. So if you're in a
I have him ranked high.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that. But play him if you got him. Des Bryant, stick with him. I know. I have him too. It's not fun, and he was pissed. But the second half, he was suffering from serious dehydration. So hopefully he'll get that.
Which is weird.
Get that together, and he won't be as bad for this game. But Tennessee's defense looks good. So it could be kind of another tough week. Dan Bailey, the kicker, play. Terrence Williams, we have him ranked 41st. I don't mind putting him in a flex position. He had 4 receptions, 50 yards, and a touchdown. I'm okay with that.
Yep.
Jason Witten, we have him ranked 16th. Ugh, I don't even know what to say about him.
It's Romo. It's Romo.
Yeah, it's Romo. And if they're,
nothing to say about Witten.
He was targeted in the end zone, which is good. So, I mean, if he would have caught that, it would have been a different game. You know, unfortunately, the defense caught it, and that's what happened. So, but, you know, hopefully the Cowboys will get together, Romo will stop making mental mistakes, and we can move on from this.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to move on to Tennessee Titans because I am jazzed.
Yeah, take Locker in 3 leagues. I'm into it.
We have Locker ranked 7th. You know, is Locker? You know, Locker's not a guy that you will see in a must-start section every single week unless this play is consistent. But he's definitely right now a strong matchup guy, and this is a fantastic matchup because the Cowboys' defense is, you know, not really a defense.
I don't even care if the Cowboys have like a good matchup. I'm still gonna rank them 32nd until like they like prove they can do anything. That's my opinion.
It's rough. You know, I mean,
you didn't say that I ranked Tony Romo 30. I ranked Eli Manning 31 and then Sean Hill 32. And until things change, I'm doing it as a statement that you cannot start these people.
And Sean Hill's not even playing.
He's injured, yeah.
Yeah, so
is he out officially or is he questionable still?
I thought it was out for 4 weeks, but I'm not sure.
I believe he's out. But Locker,
that's going to change.
Yeah, he scored the 11th most points. He scored the 11th most points. You know, and he just, you know, I think he's going to do really well this game. I think this is a really good week to play him because, again, you picked up a guy like Locker on your bench for matchups like this. This is why you picked him up.
That's right.
So play him. Play him this game. Titans defense. We have him ranked 11th.
Damn.
They were the 4th highest scoring defense last week. And the fact that they were playing against Tony Romo, who is like passing out interceptions like candy, means nothing but good things for the Tennessee Titans defense. Start them. They're going to be fantastic. Delanie Walker. I'm super jazzed for Delanie Walker this week as well. I have a ridiculous amount of must-starts right now for the Tennessee Titans, but it's happening. So, Delanie Walker. I mean, we all watched that game. It is brutal. And, you know, Walker's a guy that Locker likes to look at in the end zone. So he's not a big yards guy, but he is an end zone target kind of guy. And, you know, the Cowboys are the 2nd worst team in defending tight ends.
Right.
That is awesome for Delanie Walker. You know, so I think you get the picture here that you need to start him. And I'm talking like the big, huge Megatron Dallas-style screen picture of him going into the end zone. You need to play him. My gut calls are Kendall Wright and Justin Hunter. Kendall Wright did score a touchdown, but he only had 6 receptions on 46 yards, which you would expect a little bit more from your top receiver. And Justin Hunter actually had more yardage. He had 63 yards, but only 3 receptions. So it's kind of a back and forth here, and I think it gets a little complicated because you're not really going to be quite sure who's going to get the looks that week. But again, they're playing the Cowboys, So depending on who you've got in your lineup, not bad gut call options. And then my bench is both Sean Green and Bishop Sankey. I can never say his name. Bishop Sankey. It's because it's a weird name together. Green had an okay game. He rushed for 71 yards on 15 touches. But again, you need more than 7 points from a stud. You can't have that as your starter. And Sankey, he only had 6 carries for 25 yards. Put it to rest. Put it to rest, people. Green is for sure the starting running back right there. If you have Sankey, I would recommend dropping him because he's not going to get enough touches to make him worth a spot on your roster. So,
wow.
Out.
Arizona,
Bold statement on Sankey.
I like it. Arizona Cardinals at the New York Giants. Boom, 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 boom. Cardinals, hey, what? Minus the Ellington, I'm going to say he's playing an hour before the game, whatever kind of stuff. Carson Palmer, hey, we've got him ranked 9th. And why not? He had 304 yards passing and a touchdown. Okay. I love me some Palmer. I do. And he ran. He moved. And I would have never thought I would have seen something like that out of Palmer, but he did. He moved. Andre Ellington.
Like our dad moving.
No, Brandon, that's beside the point, all right? That's beside the point. Okay, that's what I was going to say. He had 29 yards rushing, but with how much he was moving, he must have ran at least 100 yards laterally. I mean, it was too bad
that lateral doesn't count. It's too bad.
But he moved, and he didn't get tackled sacked as much as he should have. So hey, I'm okay with it. Andre Ellington, we've got him ranked 10th. Play him. Michael Floyd, I love him. 5 receptions, 119 yards, and 2 yards rushing. I had to throw the 2 yards rushing in because that's fun. So yeah, I mean, yes, 63 of the yards came with 1 pass, but that's, you move on. That's what he does. He is a Deshaun Jackson. That's what he does. Larry Fitzgerald, sad story. Hopefully they get him the ball a little bit more. I'm still playing him. I still love him, and I think Palmer has no problem throwing to him. The defense, we've got him ranked. It was a weird game. The defense, we've got him ranked 4th, and they probably should be ranked 1 because they're playing the New York Giants, which, they're really bad.
Yep.
Really, really bad. Keep your eye on John Brown. He got 2 receptions. He might be a bigger play for the Arizona offense than we know yet. And if you picked up Dwyer, don't forget to drop him. It's over. The New York Giants, Rashad Jennings. We'll start there because that's the only nice thing to say about this team.
Yeah, that's it.
4 receptions for 50 yards, PPR. Yes, please. 46 yards rushing and a touchdown. Okay, great. And then, it all goes downhill from there, really. Unfortunately, Eli Manning felt like not throwing the ball to Victor Cruz or Ruben Randall. So their stats aren't even worth me saying out loud. They've got to figure that out. Victor Cruz is ranked 34. For me, I would rather watch him explode on my bench than play him and him score me 2 more points. Like, I can't do it again. I'm waiting till this game improves. And Larry Donald, hey, tight end. Eli's got to throw it to somebody, and why not dump it off to the tight end? So he might be the best pick up for the Giants all season long.
Other than Rashad Jennings, obviously.
Well, everybody already owns him.
Yeah.
So you can't pick him up. Hopefully not. Or I want to be on your fantasy team. We got the New Orleans Saints at the Cleveland Browns.
Great, I'm so glad that I have both these. So I'm going to make this very quick because the Browns and the Saints have the same record, and this will be the only time all year you can say that. Pierre Thomas and Mark Ingram are must-starts. The reason why they're must-starts is because the Browns gave up tons of points to both, not only Le'Veon Bell, but LeGarrette Blount last week. You can run against them. You can catch against them if you're running back. You have to start both of them. Last week, Ingram rushed for 13 times for 60 yards and 2 touchdowns, but he only had 1 reception for 1 yard. Gotta love that. A little for posterity's sake. And then Pierre Thomas rushed 7 times for 31 yards, caught 7 of his 6 targets for 58 yards. You can start both. Drew Brees and Jimmy Graham, let's just there's no crying in fantasy. Okay?
Nope.
Let's just move on. They're great.
Instead, there's napping.
Right. Yep. There's some napping.
Nap when your players are not doing well.
Right. Just take a nap at about 3 p.m. Got calls. Kerry Robinson, oddly enough, he carried the ball 6 times for 28 yards and also had a touchdown. There's a possibility he could do it again. If you're desperate and you're in a deep league or like a best ball league, we're in all sorts of weird leagues where maybe he would be a play. Fine. I won't hate you. Also, Brandon Cooks, welcome to the NFL. You're welcome. And Marcus Colston, whoa, fumbles, drops, weird things were happening. He still ended up having a decent game, 5 catches off of 8 targets for 110 yards. But anyway, they're both in the gut calls. You can play them. New Orleans Saints did not look great against Atlanta. I think we could say that minimally. And they only had 1 sack and allowed 37 points. Now, the Browns are not Atlanta. Newsflash.
No.
So, but I still wouldn't play them until they prove themselves. As far as the Browns, thank you, Browns. You left 1 quarterback in for the whole game. Quite an improvement.
Yes, thank you. And he
But
looked
there are
better the second half.
Absolutely, he did. Absolutely. And you know what? But there are no must starts. Ben Tate and Jordan Cameron are hurt, so no go. Ben Tate's out, by the way. Let's be clear. Out. Isaiah Crowell and Terrence West are probably going to split the carries. So I don't love either of them, but I don't hate either of them. Crowell was the one with the touchdowns. Terrence West was the one with the workload. So, Terrence West actually had the most workload out of everyone. 16 times he rushed for 100 yards. Crowell only rushed 5 times, but he got 2 touchdowns on the 5. So there's that.
There's that.
Yeah.
So, and
running back nightmare for fantasy owners.
Running back nightmare. Although I do ironically have Isaiah Crowell in a league where I have Ben Tate. I don't know how that happened, but I'm into it. Andrew Hawkins is the guy you want. He got 9 targets, which led the team, and everyone else is a bench warmer because what?
New England Patriots 0-1 at the Minnesota Vikings 1-0. Woohoo!
Nice.
Oh, I just love the Vikings. I can't get over it. I've been on this bandwagon for a while now. Okay, let's talk about the Patriots, shall we? Julian Edelman.
We called it.
He was a machine. I just loved it. 6 receptions for 95 yards, but it was the 2 times that he rushed for 21 yards that made me just giggle. I just loved it. Rob Gronkowski, he's good to go, guys. If he's in, he's in. I mean, who do you know who only plays half of the snaps and still has 40 yards and a touchdown? Not that many people. Stephen Gostkowski and New England's defense are also in the must-starts. Gut calls Tom Brady. Well, I feel like we're going to hear that a lot this year. Yeah. And I have Shane Vereen in gut calls, even though we have him ranked 27th. I don't know. Minnesota was really good against the rush this last week against St. Louis with both of them. Both running backs together, I think, scored 10 fantasy points or something. So it might not be as good for the running backs, and that's why I have Stephen Ridley on the bench for them. But the Minnesota Vikings, AP, I love you. 73 yards rushing, 18 yards receiving. But the best part about AP is really that this is now an offense. It's not just APs, Football team, this is an offense, and defenses are going to have to respect Patterson and Rudolph and take away a little bit of Peterson's protection. So he should be doing just fine this game. I like him. I like Patterson. I like Rudolph. I'm into it. Blair Walsh, also the kicker, great. Gut calls Greg Jennings. He looks good. He had 58 yards and a touchdown. What?
My bench was amazing.
Yes.
I'm so good at late drafting. Carson was like, Brandon, you are the best round 10 through 18. I was like, yes, I can find those people. But my studs were like, meh.
It was, No,
studs sucked it.
They were good. I mean,
really good.
He was. And this is going to be the same thing with the Patriots. The Patriots only have so many weapons to cover so many people, and Jennings gets kind of forgotten about. So all you need him to do is have 2 receptions for 60 yards and a touchdown, and he has done his job. So, bench warmers, Matt Castle, he had 3 yards rushing, just for a fun fact. It's fun. Well, we'll move on to the Atlanta Falcons at Cincinnati Bengals.
How about them Falcons?
It's good.
Welcome back, boys. Welcome back.
How long will they stay healthy? Taking bets.
I feel okay about it. You know what? And Matt Ryan, beast. 448 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Yes, please.
Yes, please.
2 thumbs up for him. And the Bengals they're just kind of a so-so team defending quarterbacks, so he could have another huge week this week. So love me some Matt Ryan. Roddy White had a touchdown. Julio Jones threw up 116 yards. Roddy had a 72% of his targets caught, 72%. So both receivers are looking solid. Feel good about both of them. My gut calls is all the Falcons running backs. I'm now lumping them in as one person. That's tough.
It's so sad because I want you to say Jacquizz because it's the best name.
I know. Well, Jacquizz, yeah, but
Jacquizz is
11 points. Jacquizz Rod. You're thinking Joy-Quee.
That's what I am thinking.
Yeah, you're thinking Joy Bell. Too much. We'll get to Joy-Quee later, but Anton Smith. He had 11 points. You're thinking, who is he? Exactly. That's my point. Jacquizz Rodgers, 9 points. Steven Jackson, who is the starter, only had 5 points. Devontae Freeman, who's alleged his prodigy child, only had 2 points.
They're all useless.
Useless. All a big committee. It's all too much of a risk. Do not even remotely think of these guys unless you are literally stuck and you need someone for a flex roll. Seriously, waste of your time. Useless. Lump them on in with the Saints running backs and the Panthers running backs. Game over.
Game over.
Now I know it on the bench other than my game over people.
I wanted to take some time at the beginning of the hour to talk about a positive thing out of the NFL, which is Mr. Stills for the Cincinnati Bengals. It's just so cool. It's a great story, a sad story. But his daughter was diagnosed with cancer, I believe, and he's mentally wasn't in the game. They cut him. They put him on the practice squad. Now he's on the full 53-man roster, so he can have health insurance for all the medical bills. And he said all of the proceeds from his jersey sales were going to go to the hospital there in Cincinnati, and it was the #1 selling jersey in 24-hour period that Cincinnati's ever had.
Ever.
So, yeah, and so it was pretty amazing. So I want to applaud the city of Cincinnati and other Bengal fans. It's pretty awesome.
And you can only get the jersey through the Bengals. You can't go to like a Sports Authority or Dick's Sporting Goods. You can only get it through them, so that way all the money does go to the Cincinnati Children's Hospital, which is a fantastic organization. So, yay! Positive story in the NFL this week.
That's what we should have spent 25 minutes on, but damn it.
Also slightly depressing, kid with cancer, though. So
it is. It's totally, all of it's really sad. But Giovanni Bernard, hey, at the last point in the season, Bernard is going to get the ball a lot. Last week he gave you a decent 11 points. So I'm okay with it. I'm not mad. I'm playing him. I'm playing A.J. Green because why wouldn't you? Yeah. Cincinnati's defense is ranked 5th. Okay. Last week they got 3 sacks, an interception, a fumble recovery. I don't know. I mean, it just sounds good to me. Sounds really good. Got calls. Andy Dalton. I can't help it. I can't help it. He's my favorite. And he should
Carson
be yours too.
and I almost died when they made that big pass at the end of the game. Because it saved both of our fantasy seasons.
Absolutely.
He just leapt up and we were like, oh.
But those are the moments.
But they do that every game.
Yes, those are the moments the Bengals give you. It's just, he had 301 yards and a touchdown. It's just what they do.
It's not lucky if it happens every week.
Exactly.
That's right. And I feel like this is going to be a bit of a shootout. So I'm on the Andy Dalton bandwagon as well as Matt Ryan. And then also some gut calls is Jeremy Hill, Mohamed Sanu. He had a 2-point conversion. That's going to help everybody's fantasy team. And for now, I have Jermaine Grisham on the bench. So He only had 2 catches for 16 yards. So. Detroit Lions at the Carolina Panthers.
I see why you liked covering them so much, Courtney. And they're even more fun this year.
I know, right?
Calvin Johnson exploded. Huge. Not that it's surprising, right? I mean,
I have to say this to you. I was playing Brandon this week, and Brandon, I was beating her by like 30-some points, and we only had 1 player left to each. But because it was Calvin Johnson left, they still gave Brandon like a 15% chance to win. And it's just because he is a freak. He's a monster. He's the best. He really is the best.
He is the best. I mean, he had 2 touchdowns and 164 yards. And these were like deep ball, down the field throws. I mean, these were awesome. Him and Stafford were connecting amazingly all game. Stafford, we got ranked number 5. He's going to have another solid game this week. So it's Megatron. You're always playing him, period. But this week just confirmed exactly why you play him. Gut calls, Golden Tate, who I would borderline bump into my must starts at this point. He's going up against a pretty stout secondary, so I guess that's the only reason I have a slight pause. But I wouldn't want to pause too much because he did have 93 yards on 6 receptions, so he's been really productive with the balls that he gets, and he's just a different player this year than last year. The Lions are doing him well compared to the Seahawks, so I'm liking it. Drake Bell is also in my gut calls along with Reggie Bush. Again, Bush only scored 5 points. He's virtually absent the second half. We found out that he actually was injured with his knee, so that would maybe explain the lack of production. So definitely be on the lookout for whether he's full strength or not. Joik Bell, or Joik, as Courtney likes to call him. He had more attempts. He had 15 attempts and he had 51 yards, and he scored a touchdown. So it's tough to say. But the Panthers are the 7th best defense in stopping the run, so this isn't going to be the best week they've ever had. By any means, but so it's a gut call. I mean, you probably don't have a whole lot of better options anyway, so think flex. And I've got no one on the bench because it's the Lions, baby. Play them all.
Play them all. And you know what? This might be a low-scoring game, which will be kind of depressing, but who knows? If anybody's going to break out, it's probably going to be Calvin Benjamin because this rookie can play. I love him. 92 yards and a touchdown. I'll take that. And now that Cam Newton's in, because he didn't play last week, I'm really excited for both him and Greg Olsen, who I also have as a must-start.
Woo!
Including, yes.
He was so good last week.
Oh, my God. 83 yards and a touchdown, 8 receptions. It just, love him. Mr. Consistent, continuing.
He had more points than Gronkowski, by the way, because I started Gronk being like, oh, Gronk's playing. I'll play him. Olsen, 4 more points than Gronk. Frustrating.
Well, Greg Olsen is the number 2 wide receiver, I should say. There's only 2 people to throw to there. So, yep. I mean, he's going to be getting a lot of passes. Gronk's only playing half the game so they can keep him healthy throughout the season. So it's kind of like a, juggling act there. Defense is a play. Gut calls, I've got Cam Newton with this injury. I'm not sure where you're going to be with that. D'Angelo Williams, he looked good last week. He had carried the ball 14 times for 72 yards. I mean, that's pretty good for him.
Yeah, that's true.
If you're desperate. And I got on the bench, I've got Stewart and Tolbert.
Always and forever.
Always and forever. Always and forever. St. Louis Rams and Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
We haven't done a song yet, so I'm glad somebody busted into one.
By the way, did you guys see the Taylor Swift comments that are veiled like I hate Katy Perry moments?
No.
Anyway, she did an interview for Rolling Stone and basically said, I thought we were I didn't know if we were friends or not friends. And then she did something and I was like, oh no, we're straight up enemies. And then I was like, oh, frenemies. And then I'm like, I wonder if Calvin Benjamin and Brandon Cooks are frenemies right now because they're competing for Offensive Player of the Year already. And it's week 1. Do you wonder? Literally, it's just them, right? They're the only 2.
Right.
For Rookie of the Year?
Yeah. Literally, it's week 1, and they're the only 2 people in contention. I'm just putting it out there. Frenemies.
You never know. Menzel may make a push here late.
Stop it.
I'm joking.
Oh my
I shouldn't have even brought him up. Instead, let's talk about the Rams, huh? Yeah.
Karma comes back.
You can get through this fast.
Quick. Play if you got him. None.
0.
Calls. Brian Quick, and that is borderline. We have ranked number 59. And when I say gut calls, I am talking like a seriously deep stomachache kind of gut call here.
Yeah.
Seriously, he was the only redeeming factor. He did have 99 yards, which is great. But the problem is that we got Hills out with a quad injury, so Aaron out's not really going to be an option. They're now on their third string quarterback, and we're in week 2. You know
what? They should trade for Kyle Orton and give him an extra $1 million a year.
It might happen. He was making a break in. Who knows?
Some guy got up in my craw about Brian Quick this week on Twitter, and because I was like, there is no one on the St. Louis Rams that you need. And he was like, Brian Quick got it. And I was like, are you freaking kidding me?
He had a good game, but who's going to throw the ball?
Exactly.
One game.
You need him? Nah.
He's in my gut call because I can understand if you want to throw a flyer on him, but again, you can't have like seriously high expectations when they're on their third string quarterback here. Let's just be very clear on that. And then my bench warmers. This is very sad. And by the way, if anyone knows comfortable earbuds, please let me know because I'm on my 4th pair of earbuds and I hate them all. Anyway, totally random sidetrack there, but they're really hurting my ears. So I did. I just did a call out for someone to give me like a Yelp review on an earbud.
It's awesome.
Yeah, anyway. Zach Stacy and Benning Cunningham are both on my bench this week.
Of course they are. Heinous.
It's bad, right? Because, Stacy only had 4 points. Cunningham got 5 points. Like Courtney said, it's under 10 for 2 running backs combined. And the Rams have gone on to say that they're going to play the hot hand, which is never good news for anybody, especially if you're in a possible committee situation. So it's not positive for anybody. And then unfortunately, one of the brighter lights is the Rams defense, but I can't even tell you to play them, even though we have them ranked fairly high, because my issue is there's no point in being a good defense if you have a really, truly terrible offense.
Yes.
Because when you have a really bad offense, no matter how good your defense is, you're on the field too much. You are on that field too much to lose points. You're tired. You're not getting rest. You don't have fresh legs. It's really hard to be as good of a defense as you can be when you don't have an offense to back you up. So that's my issue. You can't really play them until they prove they can do something different. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I've got a similar situation here with Vincent Jackson, right? So it's really hard for me to put in my gut calls because, again, I've got playing if you got him, nobody. But my gut call is Vincent Jackson. I mean, he only caught 44% of the balls thrown his way. I mean, he only had 4 catches for 36 yards. These are not starting numbers here, right? And unfortunately, the Bucs were imploding, so it's hard for you to start anybody with any sort of confidence. I would say the same goes for Mike Evans. Again, it all rides on McCown and if he can kind of semi-pull it together. They did better the second half, but it's still a little rough. It's rough there. So my bench warmers are Bobby Rainey and Doug Martin. Again, slightly not favorable because Doug Martin's ranked 11th. I have him on the bench because he went out with an injury. Already, again, problematic red flag here because he was out all last season. It is a different injury, but still a little bit scary. And Rainey didn't do much with what he had. I mean, he had 4 touches for 12 yards. I mean, well, that's not really going to do much for you. So I guess I would just say look for somebody else because you're really not quite sure on either one of these guys this week.
Boom. Seattle Seahawks, San Diego Chargers.
Let's keep this simple, okay? I don't know how they do it. They're the new voodoo people, but somehow Russell Wilson is always a top 10 quarterback with minimal stats. It's because he doesn't mess up, but it is true. And we need to just absorb it and accept that he's a top 10 quarterback, whether you like it or not. 191 yards passing doesn't sound good, but
how do you get a top 10 under 200 yards?
Unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But 2 touchdowns and 0 turnovers and then rush for 29 yards. You guys, I can't make this up. I'm sorry. The Seahawks are really good. They're the best team in football. Fact.
All right.
It is. Now they are. I don't think there's anyone even close.
That's an
Broncos are close.
Yeah, I think they're close, but their second.
That's not a homer.
Their second half was an implosion. It's the Colts, but anyway, we can get into that later. Marshawn Lynch is a beast mode. What are you talking about? I'm done. Percy Harvin, if he can stay healthy, he's a must start, but just keep your fingers crossed. That's all I'm saying. And Seattle defense, clearly, Stephen Hauschka, my lover. No one's a gut call. You're either playing them or not. However, I will say the guys that are fine, or you're in a deep league and you're desperate and you have a bit. Doug Baldwin, okay. He didn't have a great game this week because they went for this guy named Ryan Lockett, whatever. And then Jermaine Kearse, he's another guy. I wouldn't deal with any of them, but I'm just putting it out there. Zach Miller, it is what it is. Benchwarmers, none, though. They're either mediocre or must-plays, but there are no benchwarmers. San Diego Chargers, the opposite. I don't think I'm ever going to really encourage you to play anyone against these Seattle Seahawks, away or home, frankly. But San Diego Chargers are at home, so I'm going to tell you that Ryan Matthews is acceptable because he is the number one back there, no matter what we all try to say or do or what have you. He rushed for 40 yards, 1 touchdown, caught 2 passes for 20 yards. It is what it is. But he only averaged 3.3 yards per carry, and he's going up against Seattle. It's a thing. Malcolm Floyd, welcome back. My sleepers were on fire. Fire. I was like, I should have played all my sleepers and sat all my studs. It was totally against all logic. But anyway, 6 targets, 4 catches, 50 yards, 1 touchdown. Thank you. Keenan Allen, listen, he had Patrick Peterson on him all night, and he still was decent. 5 catches for 37 yards, which frankly, with Patrick Peterson all up in your business, it is a thing. He'll be better this week because it's the reverse defense. The Green Bay Packers figured it out. What they did was they put Jarrett Boykin on Richard Sherman's side of the ball all night. That's how Jarrett Boykin had 0 passes. It's called reverse defense, and it's kind of brilliant. And they're going to do that this week as well, and they're going to put Eddie Royal on Richard Sherman. Thank God, because he's my number 1 benchwarmer of the week. That guy dropped more passes than I would if I was running around with a blindfold. I don't know what was going on. I can't handle it. And on that same note, Phillip Rivers, I'm not quite sure after seeing Aaron Rodgers against Seattle that I'm ever going to start a running back or a quarterback going against Seattle. But Phillip Rivers had a weird night on Monday. He's going to have another weird night with Seattle. Then we'll move on and we can start him.
Boom. Nice, Brandon. Nice analysis. Houston Texans at the Oakland Raiders.
Kind of digging the Texans as well this year. For now.
Fitzy,
but,
your boyfriend.
I know, my bearded wonder. I love him. But we're talking about Arian Foster instead here in our play if you got him. We got him ranked 12th. This could be a huge game for him. They're going up against the Raiders. So, again, you basically play anybody going up against the Raiders. But last week, he had 29 carries for 103 yards. He's getting, crazy workload for one of the older guys in the league. They're clearly not concerned about it. He did well with it. You throw a touchdown in there, and you've got an enormous game on your hands. And the Raiders give up the 4th most points to running backs. This is a win-win all around for Arian Foster. Andre Johnson, he did okay. But what I like about him is he gets 40% of the attempts. Literally 40% of all passes on the Houston Texans go to Andre Johnson. That is what you want to see. He had 93 yards on 6 receptions, so that's good. It's not Andre Johnson amazing numbers, but that's still good numbers comparative to anybody else right now. So the fact that he's up against the Raiders and gets 40% of the targets, this is going to be a good week for him. Feel good about it. Texans defense, hello. I love it. They looked great. And again, they're, yes, they were playing the happy, turnover happy Redskins, but they're also going up against the Raiders, and the Raiders are able to get 6 points against Oakland, so I'm pretty sure Houston can get at least 6 points. Don't expect 20, but expect at least 6. And that was another good feel-good of the week, too, was with J.J. Watt. Did you guys hear that? About how he signed the $100 million contract, and then he Googled, what do rich people buy? He's like, I've never been rich, so I don't know what rich people buy. He goes, so I Googled it, and I didn't really like the answers I saw. So I'm just going to keep living my humble lifestyle and working out. That's what I'm going to do. I love it.
Nice.
I love it.
Nice.
He and I should get married. Just saying. Because his box jump is insane. Have you seen him do a box jump?
Amazing. Really, it's a shocker.
Yes.
I keep forgetting what box jump means.
It's like they have a box, and I was like it's like a box, and then you jump. It was gonna be my definition of it.
I was like, they didn't do a whole lot of box jumping in Palms, Brennan, but yes, it's a box you jump on.
I did theater.
You don't have box jumpers on stage. Terrible. He's fantastic. He's the leader of that defense. The defense is great. They're going to do well. Start him. Gut calls DeAndre Hopkins. So we have him ranked number 30.
Another one of my sleepers.
Yeah. But, he had 89-yard catch. He had a touchdown. It was a beautiful, beautiful pass from Fitzy. The question will be, again, if he just gets another ball like that because he wasn't targeted a whole lot. But, because Fitzy only threw 22 times, period, all game. That ain't great. So that's why Fitzy is on my bench. But he only had 2 points less than Drew Brees. I will point that out. But still, he's on the bench for the week. So don't be tempted by that glorious beard. Keep him around the pen.
The Oakland Raiders. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, I'm not going to talk about anybody because, it's really kind of pointless. Except Rod Streeter, my sleeper of last year that never awoken. He came out to play today, guys, or last week. 46 yards and a touchdown. James Jones, had a touchdown as well. It's very exciting. I love it. I'm not putting any money on it. That's going to happen again this week or next week after that or blah, blah, blah. And they're boom or bust players, so I'm not going to risk it. Running backs, the same situation. Derek Carr, same situation. Michael Rivera is their tight end, same situation. And we're done. Good luck, Oakland Raiders. Yay! New York Jets against the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, I was hoping that those Raiders would be as exciting as the Jags and the Buffs, but didn't work out. But they were also going up against my New York Jets, and that's part of the reason, because I actually believe in the Jets a little bit. Am I right, ladies?
I'm right. You're right.
Yeah, I love me some Rex Ryan always.
Okay.
But the Texans are good, too. That's why I'm thinking Oakland has no chance this week either. So.
Yeah, and so on the no chance, I'm not going to say anyone has no chance, but the Jets are going to Green Bay, so it's a thing. But I will say 2 Chris's are better than 1. Chris Cross will make you.
Well played, Brandon. Well played.
Both of them were top 10 running backs last week. You heard me.
2 running backs from the Jets. Yeah.
Top 10. And I'm just saying, Ivory, 10 carries, 102 yards, 1 touchdown, but 0 catches. Fabulous. And then Chris Johnson, 13 carries for 68 yards, and then caught 5 passes for 23 yards and a touchdown from the pass. So not bad. Sexy Rexy is back to the ground and pound. I'm into it. Gut calls. Eric Decker, a little bit of a letdown, but he was the #1 targeted receiver on the team. They just didn't need to because the 2 crisscrosses were just crisscrossing around the field. So they didn't need to throw to him. Sorry. But he caught 5 of his 7 targets for 74 yards. PPR great. Add a touchdown to that. He's in the top 20 wide receivers. So let's hope for touchdown. Bench warmers. Jeff Cumberland. I just want to remind you that Jason Morrow isn't doing anything. So, also, I wouldn't start the Jets' defense against the Packers at home after they've been humiliated in Seattle. Just putting that out there. Although I do believe in the Jets' defense in general. Green Bay. Okay, listen. Aaron Rodgers, this was the worst-case scenario. Game 1 in Seattle. It's the worst possible case scenario, and he still got 10 fantasy points. It wasn't great, but it happened. So have no fear, play him, be happy. He did complete 71.9% of his passes. They just didn't pass much. They really depended on the run game and nothing else.
He got hurt,
Yeah. However, somehow Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb were still stud muffins.
Yeah.
So they're matchup proof, whatever. Also, Eddie Lacy is supposedly better. He didn't practice today, but supposedly he looks good to start on in the game. So I would say start with no problem. He actually looked great until he got hurt. If he doesn't play, James Starks is a fabulous handcuff. Gut calls, Jarrett Boykin. As I said, reverse defense is what they did. They literally knew they weren't going to throw to him the whole game. That was the game plan. Don't read into that. Don't drop him. He is a guy that you want on your team. As far as bench warmers, both tight ends. They started Richard Rodgers, but then he got hurt, so Andrew Corliss is the only person that caught passes. Either way, you don't want any of that.
Boom. Scene. Kansas City Chiefs at the Denver Broncos.
All I can keep thinking right now is, a daddy make will make ya. jump. Terrible.
All year Jets.
I had my overalls that I crisscrossed back in the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I don't even know how else to wear overalls.
Yeah, nope. It's the only way. Chiefs. This is a little bit complicated, right? Because Jamal Charles. Wah. Total letdown. 2 points he got you. 2 points. So that's a problem. And I will say, who would have ever thought that Bo not being there could cause such a nightmare for a team?
Unbelievable.
Seriously.
Because Dwayne Bowe doesn't even catch all that many balls, but there's got to be some sort of chemistry with him on the field, because when he was not there, it was ugly. Ugly for all aspects of the game. So, but he's coming back, right? He's coming back with the Chiefs against the Broncos, so we'll see how that goes.
It's not Bowe, though. It's that offensive line. That's why Courtney didn't want him to be the #1 person.
Well, and I'll tell you, in our family league, he fell to me at pick number 5, and I was angry about it. I was like, I don't want him, but I feel like I can't pass him up. You got to take a running back. You know, and my dad picked Peyton Manning with the first pick overall, and I was like,
that was insane.
God, why did this have to happen? It's the only league I have him in, and I was angry about it because the offensive line is bad, and I said it. They're bad.
They're bad, but here's the issue. It was Donnie Avery literally was dropping balls in his hands on the numbers. It was
heinous. He and Eddie Royal need to be like, I don't even know.
Like, there are times where stats don't say things, right? Because those stats would go to Alex Smith as far as interceptions and whatnot,
which was not
right?
fair.
But it's not fair because you're watching this game and you're like, what just happened? What is going on? And that's not even an offensive line woe. That is literally receivers not running routes properly, dropping balls that are in their hands. You know, it's bad.
Well, that's why you shouldn't rely on somebody like a Donnie Avery to be your first wide receiver.
Yeah,
you know?
well, that's why I didn't even rank
him.
We didn't even rank him, right? Because we're like, don't fill him in. Because as it is, Bo is already suspect, and then you want to throw Donnie Avery in, forget about it. But Bo's coming back, now about that whole rant. But he's coming back, and hopefully that's going to bring a little more chemistry to the team. I will say my gut calls Anthony Fasano and then Travis Kelce. You know, did Fasano get targeted much? No. Did he convert the 3 catches he did make to over 10 yards apiece? Yeah, so that's encouraging. And the Broncos, of all their aspects of the game, defending the tight end was their weakest part last year. We really haven't seen how much they've actually fixed that, you know, this year. So of any positions, they would be the one to actually possibly do something. I've got Dwayne Bowe as my gut call, only because historically he actually does pretty well. In his past 5 visits, he's averaged only a little bit less than 90 yards each of those games. So he just does well here. So if you're going to play him, this would be one of the games to play him in. And then on my bench, I've got the Chiefs defense. You know, the Colts scored -1 points against the Broncos. The Chiefs aren't going to be any different. Just don't go there. For the Denver Broncos, your must-starts, Peyton Manning, Monty Ball, Manuel Sanders. These are givens. The 2 I'll talk about is Demaryius Thomas. It was kind of a rough game for Thomas.
I hate him.
It was rough. You know, it's kind of like the Des Bryant situation where your stud's letting you down, because he also is dropping some balls in his hands.
Yes, he was.
I don't know what was going on with that, but he was literally dropping passes that he should be catching. So
it was week one.
Yeah, he's going to bounce back. You know, Demaryius has averaged over 100 yards in each of his 4 meetings with the Chiefs, and he has scored 2 touchdowns out of those 4 games. So, you know, these are good numbers. Feel encouraged. He's going to bounce back. Julius Thomas had a crazy game, right? 3 touchdowns, 28 total points, 104 yards on 7 catches. I mean, he had a crazy game. Don't expect 30 points this week, but he'll still have a fantastic game. He's a must-start. My gut call, because I don't have any on the bench, would be the Broncos defense, and I feel a little bit torn on this one.
It's because you love Alex Smith.
No. Let's hear me out, though. Hear me out. So this is a tough call because the Chiefs looked, you know, so bad last week, right? So you're gonna want to be tempted to start the Broncos defense on that alone, you know. And then, you know, the Broncos are a much better defense this year, so it's gonna be hard to look historically. But if you did look up at the recent matchups over the last few years when Andy Reid was a coach, it's actually not a good matchup for the Broncos. First of all, you know, and Alex Smith throwing 3 picks and only throwing for 202 yards is also gonna want to sway you to start the Broncos, and I understand that. You know, and the Titans being able to completely shut down the run, yeah, that's another reason to want to start them. But again, I can't fault you, and I get why you want to start him, but historically they don't do super great against the Chiefs, and I really do think Jamal Charles is going to bounce back this game. So I'll still put up decent numbers, but I don't think it's going to be as fantastic as people think it's going to be. They're projected only 4 points.
Number ranked defense of week 2. My prediction. Chiefs are going down. And I have Jamal Charles, so I need him to do something, but the rest of the team's a hot mess. Chicago Bears at San Francisco 49ers.
So these are two teams that got shocked in completely different ways. Chicago Bears underestimated the Buffalo Bills from the get-go.
Completely.
It was bizarre. It was like they didn't even game plan for them. It was very weird. And then the 49ers underestimated how terrible the Cowboys were. So actually their fantasy players did not actually produce. So I can't really say a whole lot about either team because I feel like the game plans were actually so bad. And you know Mark Trestman's my boyfriend. Jim Harbaugh is not. But I will say that I was surprised by both of their game plans in this very weird way as far as fantasy is concerned. So a little bit of this feels preseason-y, so it's going to be a little light on the analysis to give you the best analysis, frankly. Other than Matt Forte is the bomb. I do not think, I've always said, oh, you know, he's my boyfriend, whatever. But I want to take a moment and tell you, I watched tape of that game with the Buffalo Bills and the Chicago Bears. Matt Forte made his fantasy performance look simple. He makes it look easy. People don't understand how amazing he is. So I just want to tell you, he rushed for 87 yards on 17 carries, caught 8 passes for 87 yards, and it looked like he was barely in the game. Get it. Brandon Marshall. No-brainer, right? Now, listen, he didn't practice today due to an ankle injury, but he did come back and play through it. He's going to be fine. However, Alshon Jeffrey is questionable. You need to check your injury report on him. He may not play, literally, due to a hamstring injury. He did not come back into the game. Keep your eye on that report. Gut calls, Jay Cutler. Well, welcome back, Jay Cutler. You definitely cutlered us. Yes, you did. Classic. 2 interceptions.
Missed you.
Classic Cutler. But he did have 349 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. So that's why he still was a top guy. So whatever. Martellus Bennett. Cutler actually targeted him a lot more than McCown, which is something that I kind of missed in my analysis when I went back and I looked at it. I was like, you know, he might be a top 10 guy the rest of the way. We have him 18 because San Francisco was pretty great on defense last week, but we might move him up. Just putting it out there. Bench warmers, the Bears defense, heinous.
Yeah. But dynasty is over.
The Bills basically gave them the 1 sack and 1 interception that they had, like gift wrapped. So I wouldn't, no fly zone. We're done. San Francisco 49ers, Vernon Davis. Thank you, everyone who let him drop to me. I picked him up in tons of leagues in like the 7th round. You guys are just freaking crazy. Moving on. I'm not even going to get into that. 2 touchdowns. It is what it is. San Francisco defense. It didn't look like their star players were out to me. I don't know about you ladies, but it looked fine. I don't know if that's Dallas or San Francisco, but it's a thing. Frank Gore.
No, it is. It's good. Both of them in Arizona looked good for being,
I think the freaking out went way overboard. Frank Gore, I don't know if I need to freak out or not yet because it was such a weird game. They didn't even need to run. They didn't even have the ball. He did have 16 carries to Carlos Hyde's 7, so that's a positive, but I don't even know. I'm going to wait for judgment until next week. Colin Kaepernick, I'm sorry. You had a matchup against Dallas and you're still the number 15 fantasy quarterback? I don't know, you guys. I don't think he's going to be a top 10 guy this year. I'm not even quite sure.
I've never said he's going to be a top 10 guy.
No, but I mean, like, a lot of people have, so just putting that out there, that's what he did, you guys.
These are the same people that have Knowshon Marino ranked 40.
Correct.
Yeah, same people.
He only rushed for 3 yards. So you tell me he's a rushing quarterback, he rushed for 3 yards. That's 10 times less than Carson Palmer.
That's the same amount
as Matt Peyton Manning had more than 3 yards, actually.
I can't
seriously. Carson Palmer totally blew him away when it comes to running.
So Anquan Boldin also. Hello. Right. He's really good opening weekends, though. This is his thing. So I don't know what that is about.
He is the best receiver on that team. Can I have a rant for a second here? I don't understand why everyone's so afraid of Anquan Boldin.
No, you're not allowed to have
He's the most consistent receiver. He's he is much more consistent than Michael Crabtree ever has been and ever will be.
Well, my bench warmer is Michael Crabtree, and my notes are he had no impact on this game whatsoever, and I won't play him until I see a serious change. Sorry.
Thank you.
Bam. Bam. We like 49er fans, though, guys, just so you know. Just not your team.
No, absolutely. No, I love Vernon Davis and your defense. I just think that fantasy-wise, we have some issues.
And I like Anquan Bolden.
And Anquan Bolden, yes, we do like him, yes.
There you go.
Anyone that plays with a busted jaw, and he plays with a wired jaw, respect.
Monday Night Football. Philadelphia Eagles at the Indianapolis Colts.
Okay. I'm going to make this as succinct as I can. Nick Foles, I know, you guys. 2 interceptions, 1 fumble in the first half. Absolutely. The problem is, or the good part is, I should say, he's in a Chip Kelly offense, and even with that, he's still a top guy, okay? He still came back and got you your fantasy points. It's the system. I'm not telling you I love Nick Foles. I'm telling you I love Chip Kelly. Get over it. It is what it is. Even if he sucks, he's going to be a fantasy starter. Get over it. Sean McCoy, number 1 ranked running back. I'm not quite sure about that because he only had 3.5 yards per carry average.
It was a weird game. Again, it was a weird game.
And Jacksonville's much better than we think they are. Just putting that out there. But the good news is Jeremy Maclin. Welcome back, baby. You and Floyd were my little babies.
Gosh,
I love that you both produced. You both
so open on that path.
So open. And they're going to keep leaving him open because there's so many weapons. And by that I mean Zach Ertz. Hello, Zach Ertz. As I said, 2 tight end sets all over the place. He and Brent Selleck got 4 targets each. Still, guys, Brent Selleck's amazing. Get over it. Gut calls, Darren Sproles also was awesome. He actually was a higher scoring running back than LeSean McCoy last week. I'm not saying that's how it's going to be normally because he had this crazy play where he had a touchdown. Yeah. That's not going to happen every week. But I will say he is another weapon. This is what I'm talking about, the Chip Kelly offense. It's not about the players. It's about the system. Play them all.
That's right.
In fact, Jordan Matthews and Riley Cooper were big disappointments last week. This week they're going to bounce back. I have no problems. The only person I'm putting on the bench is the Eagles because I'm not going to start any defense against Andrew Luck.
What? No, because Andrew Luck is the man. The man. I think he had over 26 points last week. I don't know. 370 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Yet he still had so much. It was just amazing against a good defense. So
Denver looked way better.
Way better. They looked way better. And thank God. Yeah. But I've always been on the Luck train. I drafted him in several of my
Me too.
leagues. I love him. I just love him. I can't help it. Brandon loves the neck beard. I do too.
He's like in my leagues.
He's a goodie. He's a goodie.
He is a goodie. He's excellent. Reggie Wayne, we have him ranked 29th. He had 9 receptions for 98 yards. Hey.
Not bad.
And Philadelphia gives up, well, they did last week, the 3rd most fantasy points to wide receivers. So I'm in. I'm kind of really in. I'm actually really into Hakeem Nicks this week.
Woo!
Another
one of my sleepers. I'm telling you.
Do you guys follow Pissed Coughlin on Twitter at all?
Yes.
Did you see his tweet about Hakeem Nicks, Courtney? You'd hate it because you love Hakeem Nicks. He's like, Hakeem Nicks has not caught a touchdown in 26 million blah, blah, blah plays. And then, literally 5 plays later, Hakeem Nicks caught a pass.
Touchdown.
touchdown. And literally the tweet just said, well, I'll be damned.
I love this.
That's the thing. Hakeem Nicks, who did he play for before he came to the Colts?
The Giants.
Oh, okay. Maybe that was the problem. Okay, let's all be honest here. Maybe that was the problem. Now he plays for the Colts. He's the 3rd wide receiver on the depth chart, and he's going to be open, you guys. Defenses can't cover everybody. They're going to stick with T.Y. and Reggie, and Hakeem is just going to be running all over the place. So I love Hakeem this week. I just really enjoy him. I also like Ahmad Bradshaw. 3 carries for 15 yards. I mean, his numbers didn't look good, but he looked kind of good,
Yeah.
And nobody can trust Trent Richardson.
Really
Yeah, so I feel like Hamad Bradshaw is somebody that's going to be coming in at the end. So I'm into that. And bench warmers, you know, I don't really have any. So go Colts.
Go Colts.
Go Colts.
And go Chip Kelly.
Go Jags.
And go, yeah,
Go
I'm okay
Bills.
with Eagles too. Go Eagles. I mean, you know what? Go both of you.
And nobody watched the Bears or Niners game. Kidding.
Oh.
Kidding.
I probably will not be watching Thursday night's game because it's the premiere of The Biggest Loser. And, you know, if I'm going to pick Biggest Loser, Baltimore Ravens, I'm going to go with The Biggest Loser. So there you go. I'm making my statement known now. Now. Should have kicked him out of the NFL at the beginning of all of this. All right, that's it. That's all. Well, that was a good show, ladies. Thank you. Very fun week 2. Hopefully won't be as weird as week 1. We've got stats now, and that's always exciting. So, yay. Come check us out at herfantasyfootball.com and on Twitter at herfantasyfb. Also, we write an article and do a video for ESPNW every week, so come check us out over there. Until next week, no more faking it.